Hey, Dr. Bolton. So this is my presentation over the Supreme Court ruling over sports gambling. So basically, I want to start off with the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. This act was placed in 1993 by George Bush in the Congress, which basically ruled that no state could do sports betting on collegiate level or professional level and tax on any of those levels of betting that they were doing. The case was the New Jersey Governor Christopher Christine versus the NCAA. And basically, the NCAA filed against New Jersey saying that they violated the PASPA, which ruled that they could not place bets on the sports or any sporting events, and that they basically couldn't do that. And they were, bringing in tax dollars with them and taxing people to bet on sports. But it also backfired on them because New Jersey said that the PASPA actually violated the 10th Amendment, which violated the anti-commandeering doctrine. And this doctrine basically voiced that people can make their own laws within the states, and we don't have to follow what the Congress says. If the Congress doesn't specifically say all states, this applies to all states. But so basically, each state had their own rights to make their own laws. And that's basically what New Jersey did in 2014 when they made their act about it so they could bet on sports. In the end, the ruling was the Supreme Court did this twice. They had it one trial and they didn't rule with New Jersey. And then New Jersey, the NCAA brought it up again against them, and New Jersey won because they had that law in place that they could have betting because it was within their state boundaries. And they weren't betting outside of the state. They were only betting on sports within the state. So that's how they won that case. A little bit more information about the case was that they enacted that 2000 law, which repealed existing state law bans in sports gaming. The court's decision determined that on the scope of the level that everything was on, they really violated. So both sides violated a certain law. So the PASPA violated the Constitution, which made this a federal case. And New Jersey violated, NCAA felt like New Jersey violated the Constitution because the PASPA Act that was placed because they said that no one could bet on sports, and they did anyways. Here's a video that further explains it.
The parties in this case are Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, along with all of the biggest names in amateur and professional sports. The National Football League, National Basketball Association, National Hockey League, and the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. This dispute arose because New Jersey wants to legalize sports betting at casinos and racetracks throughout the state. Atlantic City, New Jersey is not the glorious mecca that perhaps it once was, and New Jersey is interested in giving a boost to that industry. However, there is a law called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992, which says that no government entity may authorize, license, endorse, promote sports betting by law or compact. And so there's a clash between what New Jersey wants to do and what Congress has made it illegal for New Jersey to do. The NCAA is opposed to sports gambling, and the professional sports leagues take the same position on the grounds that betting on sports could corrupt the game, and that they want to preserve to the greatest degree possible the sanctity of the sporting matches. In brief, this case is about principles of federalism versus broad exercise of federal power. The core issue in this case is whether Congress can forbid the state of New Jersey from partially lifting its existing bans on sports betting. The constitutional question is whether the 10th Amendment and the anti-commandeering doctrines of federalism support New Jersey's efforts, or whether Congress has the power under the Commerce Clause and under federal preemption doctrine to regulate state lawmaking in this fashion. The anti-commandeering doctrine was developed by the Supreme Court in a pair of cases from the 1990s, New York versus United States and Prince versus United States. In essence, it says that the federal government may not compel state officials to enforce federal law, that the states cannot be commandeered by the federal government, cannot be dragooned into action by the federal government to enforce federal regulatory preferences. The strongest argument that the state of New Jersey and Governor Chris Christie has is that the PSPA is telling the states what to do, reaching down into the state legislature, and in fact forbidding state lawmakers from repealing one of their own laws. The 10th Amendment reserves powers to the states and means that Congress cannot tell the states how to legislate in this area, that Congress may not and cannot, under the 10th Amendment, dictate the terms of a state law, as the PSPA is doing here. The strongest argument for the NCAA is that this is a run-of-the-mill example of Congress regulating interstate economic activity that has a substantial impact on interstate commerce. You have the federal government and you have the biggest names in amateur and professional sports saying that there is a federal law that prohibits the state of New Jersey from doing this, and the federal law is rooted in long-standing principles of federal regulatory power, and that New Jersey's arguments are quite novel, that this is the sort of situation that's never arose before, and that the Supreme Court should clearly side with settled federal policy. The ramifications of a victory for the state of New Jersey in this case is that, first and foremost, New Jersey gets to legalize sports betting in the fashion that it's done so far, which is a limited repeal of existing laws, so sports betting would proceed at casinos and racetracks throughout the state. If the NCAA prevails in this case, it's basically the status quo, which is that the PSPA remains on the books, it's not struck down, and New Jersey and any other state that's interested in partially legalizing sports betting cannot do so on its own. It basically remains in the hands of Congress.
And in conclusion, basically the court, this did go to court twice, once from NCAA and then the second time from New Jersey. And basically the court overturned the first ruling that they didn't, the PASPA didn't violate the 10th Amendment. Two, they actually did, because each state does have the right to make their own laws within their own state lines that they can actually do sports betting. So now in today's time, sports betting is legalized. Thank you for listening.